from Arizona. And I'm just hit the record button so I don't forget to do it because I can tend to do that. So, and I'm going to pull up my slides and people are still kind of jumping on, but I'm just going to, hi, Christine. I love seeing your faces. People will jump on and hopefully I'll see them when they come on. And I'm just going to share my screen and start the presentation, hopefully, if all goes well. All right. If you can just give me a shout if you can see the slides, just so I know. I see some thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you for sharing those thumbs and those thoughts. And as we go through, you are very much welcome to type in some questions. I'll try to pay attention to the chat box. Sometimes I might not see it because I get all excited with what I'm talking about, but eventually we'll get all the questions answered. And I look forward to your contributions towards the end as well, because I know some of you are already doing group coaching. I mean, we've been doing things in group for probably all of our lives, especially as nurses. And so some of you will have your unique experiences, which I've set aside a little bit of time towards the end to maybe share some of the different unique ways that you're utilizing group coaching through your nurse coaching practice, or any or ideas as far as what you would like to share. So without further ado, my dad always used to say, enough chitter chatter, let's get at her. So here we are, group coaching as a nurse coach. And really what this presentation is all about is some of my personal experiences, what I've learned in my 12 years being a nurse coach, and just kind of tapping into that to be able to learn from experiences and, just kind of figure out what's working in the world of nurse coaching for myself. Maybe you'll glean a few new tips, and maybe you'll get to share some of your tips towards the end of this presentation. So I own a business. It's called Blue Monarch Health, PLLC. I was the first professional licensed nurse in Texas. I fought to have a professional license because I wanted to have nurses on the list as professionals alongside lawyers and dentists and doctors. So that's what I did. I fought for that back in the day. And I just feel it is an important thing to have a nurse's voice present in all things across the scope. So how did I even get into the idea that I love group coaching? I love spaces where others are with me. And this is just a picture of me in a fitness class that I taught in Texas. And this is, of course, during Halloween. And this was a group of women. Occasionally, a couple men popped in here and there. But we would come together and we would have a blast in the fitness realm. It didn't matter that we were all breathless and everything. We just loved being with everyone else and being in the space together, sharing each other's energy, sharing each other's check-ins, seeing the same person building the community that is so important in group coaching. And I just love being in the space of others because there's so much power in it. We can be facilitators as leaders and starting the group and making the group work. But in the end, it's the people who contribute to the group that allow so much more value to what is transpiring in the energetic space of a group. So I've been teaching group fitness for, I started back in high school. So I've been teaching for about 2 years now. And right, I actually have been teaching for 30 years in group fitness. I do personal training, group fitness, teach yoga, and then I found nurse coaching 12 years ago, which has really changed my life and career and has connected all of these things, which I thought were really important through my nursing career alongside it in intensive care. I became very burned out in intensive care. I left the bedside. I didn't know that I was burned out. We never talked about being burned out. I just thought that I was a horrible person and a horrible nurse. And because I had so much apathy, so much anger, so much not wanting to be at the bedside. Now, I never really left nursing because I was looking for something like, what can I do that would bring me back what I love about nursing, which is that connection. And so I went back to school. Did my RN to BSN. In the RN to BSN program, I came across an article from Barbie Dossi, who is one of the authors and creators of the International Nurse Coach Association and Integrative Nurse Coach Academy now, who started nurse coaching way back in the day. So I came across an article and I sat at the computer and I cried because it spoke to me, spoke to my heart so much that I got off the computer in tears, went to my husband, told him about this amazing thing I wanted to do, travel to New York City, go there 3 times, spend all this money, but I knew it was what I wanted to do. And so I took the leap, I did it. I connected with an amazing group of nurses and decided to create this group, Nurse Coach Connection, so that we could connect all nurses across the board. So we're talking all nurses, no matter where you are living, no matter what course you took, that you would just come into this space and be in space and community with fellow nurses who are doing the same work as you. So I'm glad you're here. That's a little bit of my background. And I just want to jump into more because you think, okay, well, what gives me the expertise? Like, why am I an expert in this? Well, I love groups so much that I just started exploring with different ways of using group as power. So I created a whole bunch of different programs, and all of them were really successful because people were looking for something that they could do with other people. Even during COVID, people are looking for something that they can do with others. So I created little things. They're all kind of surround movement, but it doesn't matter because the coaching aspect is in whatever kind of group we're coming together. So not all of it is movement. I mean, I have healing circles where group come together, created an elimination food plan where the group is coming together and learning some learning pieces and then moving into like, what does this learning even mean to me? Like, I'm learning this, but how am I going to do this in my life? And that's where the coaching aspect comes into it. I created a Move with Friends group, which is our active aging population, and a lot of different other groups. And what I discovered along the way is that there's just so much freedom in being in a group because the group takes over. So as a facilitator, I might be the person who started the group and got it going and invited all the people. And, I'm the leader, I guess, of the group at the start. But it's miraculous because over time, it's the group that takes over and the power of the group takes over. And you're just watching everything and holding space for it all. And that is amazing because hi, Karen, glad you're here. That is an amazing place to be because you no longer have to feel like an expert in anything, even though you're kind of created the program, so you are somewhat of an expert, but you don't have to be anymore. It releases all of that and you just become part of the group. And I just love that part of it. So here we go. Here's some details about groups. So we all know that there's a big problem with social isolation. Social isolation leads to all of these things: depression, poor sleep quality, impaired executive function, like the way your brain is functioning. We have seen many studies that show isolation has an accelerated cognitive decline. And we see dementia patients, which is one of my loves in group coaching. We see that decline happen more rapidly when people are in isolation. More poor cardiovascular function, impaired immunity happens, premature death. It's one of the comorbidities that leads to mortality, social isolation. So these group programs, no matter what it is, no matter what kind of group, it prevents and starts healing this social isolation. So people can move out of these feelings of depression or sleeping poorly or whatever it is and become part of a community where they can feel valued, where they can feel like they're part of something. And I've got a couple of resources at the bottom if you're interested in how social isolation, mortality affects men and women, or just how it affects the lifespan in general. I'll share the slides after, and that you can look up. These articles are really quite fascinating. And we know that all of us are challenged in many different ways, emotionally, financially, socially, environmentally, physically. Our self-confidence is affected in life in general. I'm just talking life in general. And our knowledge, can have challenges in knowledge. Maybe we don't know something, we want to learn something. We want something from these groups, and we're looking for something in particular. So as you may be thinking of creating groups, these are some of the thoughts to think about, like, what can I bring to the table that could help people, whether it be physically, whether it be socially, whether it be an element of education, or is it emotional support? What is it? Finances, all of the things that we know as nurses that lead to wholeness, that are not just one thing, they're multiple things. And we know group coaching can help support all of us as a wholeness. So all of that being said, the nurse coach or the leader, the facilitator of a group coaching session is the anchor. Really, we're the anchor. We are the thing that keeps everyone grounded, because we know when there's no leader, I'm going to swear, shit hits the fan, or stuff happens and there's a lot of chaos. And so we need something to anchor us back to the reason, the rationale, whatever it is, the why we're all together. So nurse coaches become the anchor. And these really, group coaching is coaching conversations in supportive and dynamic group-centered spaces. We're exploring lifestyle behavior change and sustainable goals. I actually had a job interview last week, as an aside, and I was talking to a physician, and he was talking to me about prevention, which is fantastic. I'm like, oh, doctor, yes, prevention. And he was saying, yeah, I want to do these presentations and I want to share all this information. And I said, that is so fantastic. I am so thankful that you are interested in prevention and want to share your information, but may I just offer something? And he's like, okay, this lady in an interview, right? I said, it's great when we can share information, but when we're talking about prevention, I mean, wouldn't it be great to add a coaching element to that? Like, what would happen at the end of a presentation when you say out to the group, now what is one thing that you just latched onto in this presentation? What is that one thing that you want to take home with you and try in your life? And then you leave space, of course. Then people can share what that is. And then it can be like, oh, okay, well, how are you going to do that? Then they could share that. And then you could talk about barriers, like, well, what could happen if that didn't work out? And have those conversations. And he just stopped and looked at me. And he's like, oh my God, you're right. Like, we could be doing better. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a place I might want to work. So we'll see. That'll be news later at another time. But anyways, behavior change and sustainable goals. With group coaching, we do hopefully end up getting to some goal setting at some point. I just love, I spoke of the energy, spoke of unity, of creating spaces where people can come together, whether it is in joy or whether it is in grief, right? There's so many sides that we could choose to help and create safe spaces for people to share. And that's one of my, I think it's one of my strengths, is creating the ability to create a safe space where people can come and share and be themselves. And I bet you all have that strength too. Yep. So here's some ideas. I'm just throwing them out there. I shared some at the beginning. I didn't really tell you about anything about any of the programs that I do, but so we've seen some group coaching things going on. CDC does some diabetes prevention. I don't know if it's a coaching program, right? Maybe it's just sharing information, which is good, but let's take it to the next level, right? Can we share some group coaching around meditation, building resilience, handling grief and moving forward, or looking at how grief affects you in your life? Movement, which is my love, or food. How does food affect you? And there's so many avenues in which you could trajectory, I don't know, that's probably not a word, trajectorize off of each idea. But moving into, just brainstorming, like, what is it that I like? And what is it that I would want to even do with a group? And do I need to be an expert? Not likely. But you do want to try to pick a topic that you actually like, because you're going to be spending some time doing it. So it would be a topic that you would enjoy learning about or enjoy hosting people at your party. It's kind of like a party group coaching session. So some of the benefits of group coaching that I appreciate is, there's more touch. And, I'm going back. I'm going to the wrong slides. Let me go back. Here we go. There's more touch. What I mean about that is that you could have like 12 people in a room instead of just one. One-to-one coaching is fantastic. Group coaching, you can potentially touch more people at the same time. Again, you're getting this positive socialization aspect. There's group camaraderie support from each of the group members. There's accountability. When you're showing up, other people are showing up too. It's that accountability. Oh, Susie's going to be there. So I told her I'd be there next week, so I better show up too. Actually, a little thing I use is when somebody new comes to a group, I say, tell me your name, and they'll tell me their name. Oh, I'm Sally. And I say to Sally, Sally, should I remember your name for next week? And then they can tell me yes or no, they're going to come back next week. So kind of just a little tip. Then we also have these shared stories, right? We know stories are so important in nurse coaching because the story is where the details come out of how we can actually support in partnership with another. And the shared story, meaning the connection because of those snippets of information and past history that people can connect to that another person is sharing. We know that group coaching shows improved outcomes. If you're in a business, it could mean more money for you as a coach because you can touch more people. You can also save money for participants because you can offer a discounted rate because they will, in essence, have less touch for you, with you. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, in a nutrition class, maybe you're doing, you talk to them all at the same time. Whereas one-to-one, you would have to spend 1 hour with one person. So it could be more expensive for the person. You could actually make more money doing less work as in a group. So something to think about. And you have to know yourself too and what you love, because you don't want to do stuff you don't like. We've been doing that way too long, doing things we don't like. Okay, so I want to talk about a little bit about this coaching thing, because some people are confused and need some framework around group coaching. So I'll just give you some examples. So we know, anybody a sports fan? Anybody like sports? I know I don't know. No. Thank you. Okay, I like some sports. Right. So we watch sports. How about that? Anybody watch sports? Yeah. Every so often, I just gloss over sometimes and the TV's on and sports are going. In team coaching, we have a group team. Team's a group, and they are all moving towards the same goal, which usually is winning. Right? They might have a different role to perform, different duties to perform, but the goal, which is the star, is to win. Make sense? So they're all going to the same way. Everybody's going there, trying to win. Okay. Now, when you come to group coaching, I'm gonna make like some absurd kind of examples here. So, as a group coach facilitator, you might decide you want to do a group coaching around food, maybe nourishment in some way. So maybe you've decided, and the group has decided, or you've decided, because you just want to advertise, you want to just get people there. So you're going to say, okay, we're going to talk, the topic's going to be eating more fruits and vegetables. I'm just throwing something out there. Okay. So people come, that's great. Now, when the people come, they know they're going to be talking about eating more vegetables. Otherwise, they're not going to show up because that's not what they wanted. They wanted to learn about eating more vegetables. So eating more vegetables is the topic. So that's in the center topic, eat more vegetables. And the goal that they've decided in the group is that they're going to eat more vegetables, because that's the title of the course. So everyone's decided, and this is absurd, they're all going to eat one zucchini and they're all going to eat one bowl of spinach that week. So they have the same goal. Now, Eat 1 zucchini and 1 bowl of spinach. That is the goal. But they could get to the goal in any way they want to. Well, actually, let me step back. They can get to the goal in whatever way they want to, because that's their life. But the goal is to eat 1 zucchini and 1 vegetable. So everybody's got the same goal, but they're kind of going in a little bit of different directions. See what I'm saying? So as a facilitator, you can create the topic. You can have the group come up with the topic to work on. And then you can create the group goal by asking your great, powerful coaching questions. But in this example, everybody decided they're going to eat 1 zucchini and 1 bowl of spinach. So that's the goal. So that could be one way of doing group coaching. Another way to do group coaching, let me just actually step back, because people often ask me the difference between group coaching and support groups. Here's some quick snippets on that. So group coaching has group goals set by the group, guidelines are set by the group. We focus on behavior change. We're actually talking to inner wisdom and having inner wisdom come in for them to utilize. We're using the coaching languaging, coaching tips and tools, coaching modalities, all of those things. And we're using the peers as a support. In a support group, oftentimes, and it's not always cut and dry, right? It's not always cut and dry. In fact, after we've taken nurse coaching and understand nurse coaching, we could be in a support group and we're going to run it like a group coaching session. Right? But people who don't necessarily have any coaching, they may run it a little bit differently than an actual group coaching session. So the group goals are actually set by a program. So for example, I used to be a bariatric center coordinator, and we used to focus on certain goals that were set by our program because we wanted our patients to be successful. So it's not like we didn't care about the goals of our patients, but we had certain things and outcomes that our program wanted to uphold. So we would create these support groups around those goals. We didn't ask our patients so much about the goals they had. That was back in the day. I wouldn't run things much differently now. Then we create group rules. They could be guidelines set by the group. Or have you ever been in a presentation where the instructor or teacher just creates their own goals and rules? And you're like, well, yeah, but I wanted to actually add something, and they don't offer that to you. That's a different kind of feeling, right? There's usually a structure, a real set structure and an agenda at support group meetings. What's going to happen. Group coaching, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. That's actually the fun of group coaching. You have education. You're going to be teaching a lot of stuff, and you're going to be offering support, and there is going to be availability for peer support within a support group. But like I say, it's not cut and dry, and these things can kind of weave together as you go through, as you see. But it'd be interesting as you are in different groups to actually start thinking and seeing things. Is this being run as a group coaching, or is this more being run as a support group? And we'll actually tie in this up in a minute here. So there's another way of group coaching where, so what we have here is the little circles and the arrows are the actual people. And then the other shapes are different goals that they're looking to achieve. So in this example, same topic, people are going to want to eat more vegetables. I'm going to use a lot of coaching questions in the coaching session to help people explore. So I might use a tool like a meditation or an awareness practice that has people maybe eating certain food, and feeling the sensations. Maybe it says eating with the senses, say, for example. And then I'm going to create questions that are going to support what my awareness practice was related to, like which part of eating made you feel joy? Which vegetables would you like to try instead of just a zucchini and a bowl of salad? When you think of vegetables, what comes up for you? So that people are starting to actually tap into their inner wisdom. And then the group discusses maybe one question or two questions, because, as people start talking, that can take time. So you don't want to add too many questions because you want to allow space for everybody to actually share something. And then when you are listening to the stories of people when they're answering the questions, you're actually thinking, okay, what is the theme that is happening here? Is there one? Might not be. But themes that people are talking about and trying to weave those together to create some kind of cohesiveness with the group. And then you can feel like people are starting to move in different directions instead of just trying to win a sports or just eat the zucchini and the bowl of spinach. They're actually starting to move in different directions because we're all unique humans. And that is the actual beauty. So the goal could be that they ended up, creating a goal completely different than the zucchini and the bowl of spinach. It could be something completely different, and they're going to travel to the goal in their own direction and however they get there. And that's the kind of group coaching I like, because you can never, ever, ever know what's going to happen. And it's actually pretty darn fun because as we have learned in many of our coaching, if you've taken a course yet, even if you haven't taken a course before, nurse coaching, I used to always think that I knew what was going to happen. And what I've come to discover is that is totally not true. I never know what's going to happen. And I have to let that go because I'm not there to fix anybody. I'm just there to offer a space of safety and sharing and tapping into their own inner wisdom so that they can discover what is important to them versus me thinking what's important, what I think is important to them, which who cares? The bottom line is who cares? Like, what are you going to do for me, right? That is what have you done for me lately? So anyways, so some thoughts about that. Just kind of different ways to think about how we could run a session or some different ways in which we could run a session and what could work for you if you're deciding to do group coaching sessions. We do know that people are all different learners. So I just popped that in here as a reminder, because when you're in a group, you're going to have to learn all of that. Like, how does Susie Q like to learn? What is her way of expression? Does she like to work in isolation, or is she very verbal? Does she like a logical approach? Does somebody like to draw? Like all of these different ways of being are going to show up in your learning, in your group coaching session. So just touching on that just for fun, just as a reminder. And remembering that we are always the anchor, that we are the stability of the group, that without us, the group would ultimately probably end up going back to old ways of doing and being, which is the old patterns that we used to do before nurse coaching. So just remembering the importance of your role as the energy starts to shift in the group and you become you're still the facilitator, but you become less of the directorate, because at the beginning you were trying to get everybody to come into your course and program. So, just, I see groups as shared co-creation. So we're all creating something really unique in our lives and looking forward to something. And that's why we joined up with the group. But we're creating, as group coaches, we're doing the focus, we're creating the focus. They're setting the expectations in a way, but we are too, and it's important to know that. And then we're creating a safe space for people to have support. So let's talk about logistics real quick, because I often get this question like, I want to start a group, but I have no idea where to begin. And so here goes. I'm just going to throw out some ideas. So the size of a group. If you have one facilitator, I recommend a group no bigger than 10 to 12. 8 with one facilitator is a spot that I really like, because it allows you them time to voice. If the group gets too big, there's not a lot of enough space for everybody to share what they want to share. So just be aware of, what is your purpose of your group, for one, and how many people do you think would be reasonable if everyone was to feel like they were the only one in the group? So creating a space like for that. Greater than 12 people, you want to think, okay, maybe I need 2 facilitators, because I could do a group breakouts. Maybe your group, maybe the topic that you have is so awesome that so many people sign up for it, and then you're like, oh shit, how am I going to handle this? Well, I better call someone up and ask them to be my co-facilitator, because that would really help relieve some of the stress, and then still be able to connect with each person on an individual manner in some way. When you're thinking about your setting, I moved into this super small community. I knew nobody. And I just started to look in my community to see what kind of things are in my community that I could go to. So for my population, it's active aging adult. That's people 50 and older. So I just went to the community centers and I talked to the manager. I just went in, say, hey, I'm new. Even if you're not new, I've never been in this facility before. I've been driving by every day. I've been wanting to come in. I came in today and here's what I do. And I'm curious to know how I can help your population here. And here's some ideas I have. And actually bring some ideas, hand over some things, and then you're creating that relationship. Every time that I've started a program, I just started building my relationship from the ground up. So I didn't know anybody. It's okay. Just be brave, step out, go in, talk to somebody, and see what they need. Could be the community center, could be the local YMCA, the library. Could you do the program outside? Maybe so. Could it be virtual? Go to your hospital. So many places, so little time, but getting out there and getting your voice heard and showing up to be of service to that community. Choose times and dates. So there's a consideration about that. You know what I always hear, because of this Nurse Coach Expert series, I always get back from people like, what day and time is going to work best for everybody else? Well, what about if you just did what's best for you? What if you just picked a time and date that is going to work the best for you, because you are the one who's like doing everything for this group. So if you're going to create something, maybe you think about what's best for you, and then you think about the group, the other people. And I know that's backwards to what we're thinking, what we usually think, right? Well, we want to know what is everybody else going to do, but you're the one who's leading the show. So be there for yourself. And then pick topics that interest you. I mentioned this earlier, because you're going to be spending some time in that topic. So it would really not be the most fun if you pick something that you're not really that interested in. So you don't need to be an expert in anything. You could ask around in your community, what do they need? What do they want? What have they thought about? Talk to people. I often, if I'm standing in line getting a coffee, I might chat with the person behind me. People think I'm crazy all the time, but it's okay. I'm just curious and trying to use my nurse coach curiosity everywhere I go. And then you got to think about, how am I going to do this? What am I doing? When am I going to do it? Why am I doing this? This is a really good question. Why do I want to do this? And let the why actually guide you in how you're going to create it all. And then we, of course, use the nurse coaching process. We always have a creative beginning, a middle, and an end. And just touching on that, every time I start a nurse coaching group coaching session, I center myself. I might sit in the car. I might put on a song I really like, and just sit for a moment, take a few breaths, notice the nature, whatever it is your practice is, reminding yourself to center. And then going into the space, you're already ready to go. You're not rushing. You're not telling everybody about what happened to you before you got there. It's like, creating that safe container for people to be in space with you. I do set group guidelines and agreements, and I have the group do it with me. So I basically throw up a piece of paper that's blank, put up agreements at the top, and say, whenever you go to a meeting, what are some things that you really need when you're at the meeting? And so I might throw the first word up. So I might say respect. And then I'm setting the tone, right? So I'm setting the tone. And then people will shout things out. I'll write every single idea up on that paper, so everyone's voice is heard. And then I say, what else do you have? After the ideas are trickling down, I pause, silence. And then I say, okay, that's it. I might, if the people don't say have fun, I always add that at the bottom, because I have to have some fun. And then I ask, is there anything up here that gives anybody heartburn? So that allows people to say, oh my gosh, I don't agree with that, or I couldn't do that, or whatever it is. And then we can have a group discussion. And I usually do this in the first meeting, because it's that important. Then every time I come back to that group coaching session, that sheet of agreements goes up on the wall, and we're reminded of it every single time we come together. And I'll touch on it again. Remember our agreements? Is there anything on here that we need to add? Is there anything that we should shift? Again, it creates the discussion. Looking at introductions, centering practice, potentially awareness practice with the whole group, asking for a weather report. That's a common one that's a colleague uses. What are you hoping for today? Maybe we have somewhat of an agenda that we're working towards, like every week we're working on something different. Like in my healing movement project, it's every week we focus on a different movement strategy and exploration of that. But my awareness practice is always related back to what I'm doing. And then we can move into the discussion around it. I just talked a little bit about group guidelines. I'm going to skip that. In the middle, we might choose the topic, or the topic might already have been chosen. And then I'm going to use coaching questions around the topic. You might do exploration. We might do a little snippet of education in there. We try to talk from I statements. I usually add that into the group agreements. A lot of things can happen in a group, so you're going to feel some tension sometimes, and just, feeling that. And maybe that just needs some space. What's the best that could happen if you just inserted an awareness practice in when something gets a little bit crazy? So just kind of thinking, not worrying about the group. I used to worry a lot about my groups when I first started. Worry, oh God, I wonder if Sally's coming tonight, because last week she was really difficult. And now I just kind of shifted into the thought of the tensions are going to happen. They could happen anywhere. It happen in the grocery store. I don't even know the people. But in the end, it always seems to work out. Because why? Because we're skilled. We know this stuff, and we can be present for others and hear them with nonviolent communication, open-ended questions, understanding, compassion, empathy, and we're meeting them where they are at. And in that space, it seems that things just smooth out. So if you've been thinking about doing a group and you're nervous about the group, I challenge you to step outside of that thought process and move into more of, I know that I can be this container for others to come in safety. And then, of course, there's a closing side. Now, the closing is really important, because the closing is where you're going to reinforce, they're going to actually voice their goals, and then we're going to reinforce what their goals are. So they may develop a personal action plan. Now, you got to leave space for this to happen. So sometimes I'm like, man, there's so much conversation going on, and we have 10 minutes, and I was going to say again, and we didn't have enough time to create a goal. Yeah, that's not, if we don't have a goal, I mean, sometimes you don't need a goal, right? You don't always have to have a goal. It's nice for people to say what they're actually going to do with the information that they may have learned at that time, or the experience or the awareness that they've come up with during the time you're together. So creating some space for that, a good chunk of time, maybe even 20 to 30 minutes, depending upon how small or how big your group is and how verbal your group is. You may not know that right away, but you're going to do that. All right. Are you leaving? Okay. All right. Thank you. Kisses, hugs, next time. Let's see. So yeah, goal setting may take 15 to 20 minutes. Use it toward the end of the group. One way to do it is to use the brief action plan. We've all maybe have heard of this, and if not, you can look up this these authors, Rhymes and Davis. Brief action planning. There's actually 3 questions that you can use to really help people narrow in on a goal. So for example, we're just talking general health. Is there anything you'd like to do for your health in the next week or 2? Take some time for people to write down maybe what it is that they're thinking about, leave some space for them to think about it. And then, does the person need more details? They may have gathered the details because you've offered some education before all this happened, and then turning it and helping them turn it into a SMART goal. And then how confident, using the readiness ruler, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you actually feel about carrying out this plan? And then if they're like a 0 out of 10, it's not a goal that they're ever going to achieve. So how can you help them adjust the plan if needed? Or could the group help them adjust the plan? So, thinking about how you're going to use the group and less focus on you as you build your group coaching. And then would it be helpful to set up a check-in about how things are going with your plan? And maybe you decide with the group that every Wednesday you're checking in with the group to see how their progress is. But I do love the brief action plan because it is brief. It can really narrow down quickly what people need to do and want. And so I'm going to open up the time for you all to, maybe you have some ideas on group coaching. So I'm just going to, invite you to come off mute and just share if you've got, or put your hand up, or I don't know how we can do this so I can see. I'm going to stop share. I did want to, I'm just going to put up my contact information. If you want to contact me, I'm always ready to be of assistance and availability for you. And I'm going to stop the share. All right. So what thoughts do you have out there with all that crazy information? Do any of you have any tips that you feel that you want to share about group coaching? Some things you may have learned in your experiences.
I will just say, hello. I will just say ditto. Thank you for that great information. I love how the energy of the group does kind of take over, and I feel like I can kind of breathe a sigh of relief.
Absolutely.
So that's anybody that's kind of thinking like, oh yeah, I want to do this, but it seems rather daunting, like, oh my gosh, can I do this 4 weeks in a row? Yes, you can, because really, again, you just get the ball rolling. And yeah, so thank you. Everything was great. A lot of ideas I've already used, but new ideas too. So I really appreciate your time and effort that you put into this, Nicole. And right after you moved, I don't know how you
know. What am I doing? I'm crazy.
Well, you might be. But thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks so much for saying all that. I appreciate you being here. Christine, did you have something to say too?
Sure. I'll just pop in. First, thank you very much. I always get inspired when I hear what other people are doing and know that I am out to be doing the same thing. But one of the things I wanted to comment on, I did a group with somebody else back in, I guess it was in the summer, we did a 6-week group. And it was really a lot of fun to have a co-facilitator because it took some of the pressure off to be able to take turns each week, just kind of planning and bouncing things back and forth. So that was one tip. If somebody is not quite sure they want to jump in alone, just drag along another nurse coach and do it together. You can both get your feet wet at the same time. And also how fast an hour goes. That was kind of a surprise to me. You kind of have this idea and you plan, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, an hour. Wow, that goes by really, really fast. So you have to kind of take that into account when you're planning.
Such a good point, Christine, because you try to pack a lot of information or pack in a lot of, cool things that you want to do. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, we haven't even touched on like half of this stuff. So it is like figuring that out with experience, and you wouldn't know that until you start doing it.
Absolutely. It's a little learning curve, but it's a fun learning curve. So
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. I see a question. It says, how did you put info out there for people to get involved, from Cheryl? Cheryl, was that like when I was thinking about the groups and getting them going, like marketing and advertising for them? Is that what you mean by that? Yes. Okay. So yes. Okay. So that's where the relationship building becomes very important. So for example, I went to a community center. I talked to the manager there. I brought my ideas with me. And then I said, how can I be of service? And then I had that beginning conversation. And then, of course, there are more conversations after that. It wasn't just like, here, yes, everybody, yeah, we want you. I mean, yeah, there is some of that sometimes happens, right? where it's like, yes, you are just the person we need. We've been looking for you. Come and do your program. That's great when that happens, but sometimes it's not. So, I always think of no as next opportunity. So NO, next opportunity, because obviously they weren't ready for me. That place is not ready for me. So I'm going to go look for another opportunity. So, but when I go to a space where they're like, yes, we're interested, we're not sure, but do share more. So then I just keep following up. I don't be a pest. Try not to be. And I'll send an email out. I might pop over again. I might show up at a bridge. For my population, you could play bridge. I might show up at the bridge meeting or just meet people that are there. So then I'm getting myself known in the community a little bit more. And then with that connection to the manager, I'm going to ask the manager, how can we advertise? What have you noticed within your population that works well to advertise for this group? Because if you just put up a flyer, nobody's going to come. I've tried that. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you get it one or two. But we got to think about, okay, where are these people going to be seen? Could I show up at a group that's within the facility, like for my active agers? Could I show up at a comedy night and talk to some people and sit at a table where I don't know anyone? Yeah, I could. Or I could bring my flyers with me to these events and just say, hey, can I talk to before your meeting and just share what we're going to be doing? So I'm doing some of that too, but then I'm also relying on whomever understands the population a little bit better for advertising. Now, if it's something that I'm doing remotely through my own business, I do a lot of stuff through Facebook. I might do some videos, live videos about a program that I'm doing and just show up on Facebook, invite people to it. So there are quite a few different ways to actually get people to come to your group. Some groups will be very small, but you have to start somewhere. And one thing I learned long ago was, I used to be a fitness presenter, so I would present fitness in front of 1,000 people. And then I went into nurse coaching and I was like, gosh, there's nobody, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 people are showing up. And I would think, well, must be something wrong with me. Well, I had to flip that thinking completely, because you know what? If no one shows up for a program that I've okay, first of all, if one person shows up, I am so happy that one person showed up. They're the most important person in the room to me. And if no one shows up, then guess who becomes the most important person in the room? Me. Because I have to be important enough to understand that it's not me. It may be something that happened in the marketing, or maybe the time was off, or, there's a lot of things that can go on. So just understanding that, groups can be small, they could be big, and just starting is the most important thing. I see Mary has shared here, I used the group coaching in the women's retreat. I did. Awesome, Mary. How'd that go?
Sorry, I was muted. It was actually really awesome. And like you said, the group kind of takes over. And so it turned into be a really awesome change for these women.
Wow. So was the retreat already going, or did you create a retreat?
I created the retreat.
Woo!
It was called the Ultimate Self-Care Retreat. And I had other presenters, because I network pretty hard in the area that I live in. So I had someone who deals with essential oils, so she did a presentation. I had a lymphatic drainage massage therapist, and so she did a presentation. And then I had a couple of friends lead us in meditation, and we did a sound bath. So it wasn't just me, it was like a group of us. So we kind of hit on every aspect of wellness and self-care.
Sign me up. But it is back to Christine, because she was saying it is so fun to have that co-facilitation, or people who are backing you up, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Fun, and then also taking the pressure off. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then offering things that you may not be an expert at. And that actually then extends your reach too, right, to different people.
Right. Because, you know, one thing that I've learned, especially with nurse coaching, is I don't have to be the expert in everything, but I just need to know people who are. So it makes it easier.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. We don't need to be the expert in everything, but we're used to being the expert because gosh darn it, we know things, which we do. I mean, we have all this knowledge, but we don't have to be the expert at everything to get going. We just have to take a step forward. It's hard to just jump up and down. Like it'd be great to just like move forward a little bit or move to the side. Just taking those movements, move backwards even, instead of just jumping up and down and never getting going anywhere. So thinking about that. All right. Oh, Karen, the biggest problem I'm having right now is that Facebook is reducing the reach for health-related posts and content. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But we're still going to move forward anyways. Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, well, we've got about a couple minutes left. If anybody wanted to say anything that's on their heart, share anything that's on their mind.
I just wanted to again say thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. All right, my friends, I so appreciate you showing up and being here and sharing and listening. And I wish you all the best today. Great safety and health. I did put my contact information up. There was somebody who was wanting it. I put it in the chat. It's Nicole Nicole at bluemonarchhealth.com. Reach out or just send me a message on Facebook. Thanks, everybody. Mwah. Be safe. Bye-bye. Bye, Sherry.